So girls, let's quickly go through this. Shh. Girls, 3, 2, 1. First one, outline the risks of outsourcing. I believe it's the 6th today, if memory serves. 5th, thank you. 3, 2.
It makes like in-house employees redundant.
Alright, so the first thing that we have is redundancy. Okay? Absolutely. What else? What is there a risk of, Samar?
I don't know if this would count, but like disease, like
Disease? Not so much disease, because when you're outsourcing the product, it's sort of just staying in that country. Okay? Yeah, unless it's a product, then very rare diseases are actually firing back on products in the modern day. What else? Increased risk, okay? Spillage of who knows what that means? Spillage of confidentiality. Linking information, okay? The more businesses that you're outsourcing to, the greater your risk is of your business documents falling into the wrong hands. Okay? It's just the nature of it. Now, the most notable example of outsourcing in Australia that most of the common people will be familiar with is phone calls. Okay? You get rung up by someone, they're ringing up for an Australian business, but they're either in the Philippines, India, China, or Vietnam. Okay? Now, those people are collecting information for the business that they're working for, that they've been outsourced for. But the danger is that the business that they're outsourcing to might leak those documents of all those phone calls that they've been making, and therefore you have all these Australian records running wild in these other countries. Okay? Outsourcing is of course really big in Australia for manufacturing. Okay, because it's cheaper to make something in a factory in Beijing than it is in Australia. It's just so much more cheaper. Okay? Now, we have little things that we have to prevent outsourcing of everything manufactured. Can anybody remember what that is? There's a specific tax that we put on to stop people from manufacturing everything from outside the country.
I don't know if it's the correct term, but like trade tax.
Trade tax, but the one I'm looking for is a tariff. Okay? Which is basically you paying a tax for buying something from overseas rather than buying it in Australia. It's to stop cheap foreign goods from flooding the country. Okay, because they could make it so much more cheaper than we could, and they'd destroy our economy. Okay? This one, a slightly weirder one. Describe the corporate culture of your school or our school. Who wants to have a crack? Go.
I would say a flat management structure because I think students can approach,
Yeah,
management.
I think so. Personally, myself, I would say that the organisational structure of this school is quite hierarchical or autocratic. Okay? In that I, as a base level teacher, am generally going to go by whatever Mrs. Sullivan says, for example. Ms. Sullivan is going to go by whatever a deputy or Mr. Lum says. Okay? And Mr. Lum will go by whatever the director of the region says. Okay? The director is Tony something, whose last name I forget. What is it? Kemba. Okay, not Tony Abbott. Okay? Tony Abbott did not suddenly get into education. Okay? So our one is quite autocratic, but we do have cultural expectations at this school. Okay? What's the cultural expectation at this school that pretty much all of you are doing right now?
Business.
Uniform.
Uniforms.
Oh.
Okay? that is part of the culture of our school. It's very uniform based. You must wear this, otherwise you're defying the cultural expectation of the business and you could be punished for it. Okay? Other businesses will have those sort of uniform expectations as well as punishments for them. You're not going to get sent to detention for that one, but you can get written up and it can get you one step closer to losing your job. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, because if anyone's worked at fast food here, you know that pretty much every fast food has uniforms. The manager will write you up for not being in your uniform, and you can, if you get written up enough times, lose your job over that. And sometimes it can be something really simple, like not wearing a cap. Okay? I always used to get knocked on KFC for that one. Okay?
Oh, like if my sister gets one. I was not going to.
Explain how a business may need to modify its organisational structure to internal and external influences on the business. So, let's quickly go through this one, okay? If I needed change done quickly, right now, what organisational structure am I going to use?
Income.
Not income. No. Can anybody remember what our organisational structures were like? Flat versus hierarchical. Participative versus autocratic. Who can tell me what autocratic means? Hitachi?
Things are going up a certain way, and no discussion, no communication.
Yeah. Okay. No discussion, no communication, one person decides all. Okay? Autocrat literally meaning power of one. Okay? Participative being everyone gets a say in the discussion. If you want something done quickly, what are you going for? Autocratic, okay? You're going to go for an autocratic organisational structure if something has gone terribly wrong in the company and you need to fix it right now. There's no room for debate, there's no room for discussion. We need to fix it now, and anyone that gets along the way, they're going to lose their job. Okay? Because we need to fix the problem now. If we have something that needs a long-term solution, it is going to be more of a participative organisational structure or a flat one, because we want people to have their input so we get the best options available. Okay, but it can't always be participative and it can't always be autocratic. There has to be this constant flux between them. And depending on the internal and external influences, that's going to change which one you're going to be that day. Okay? Alright, so we pretty much finished the PowerPoint from last time. So let's go on to this one, okay? Moving on to the next set, which is managing change effectively. Okay? So we were looking at last lesson, responding to external and internal influences. Now we're looking at, okay, we've got some of the responses. How are we going to make sure that those responses are effective in what we're trying to do? Okay? So, first up, we've got to look at why change in management is necessary. Okay? We've sort of looked at why the business itself has to change, but not why management itself has to change. Now, the business environment is constantly shifting, and business managers need to change or be left behind. If you're still using that classical theory of managing that we discussed in term 1, then you're going to be left behind by this world that is moving at a very quick pace than you can possibly do in your autocratic style, where you refuse to delegate power and you think all your workers are too stupid to be having any sort of power. Do you remember those classical theories? Okay, the worker's too stupid because they can't read or write. Therefore, I've got to make all the decisions. Okay? Although change is necessary, it inevitably causes opposition and resistance. Anything in your life, whenever there's a change, there's always someone or something opposing it. Okay? And you've got to learn to move past that resistance and know how to deal with that resistance as well. Okay? So first up, okay, some of you this might be applicable for in a couple of months. Okay? If you are part of the school leadership team, prefects and captains, and you saw a necessary change that needed to be made, how would you go about doing it to face the least amount of opposition? I'll give you 2 minutes and I want some dot points in that one, okay? You have to make a change. How are you going to make sure that that change is going to be minimal? Okay? It's going to be the least amount.
I'll just change it myself to be honest.
You just go autocratic?
Yeah, I'll do it myself.
But what if there's a change that needs to be made in the schools, not just something to do that you can do yourself?
I'll change it myself. I'll pay for it too.
You pay for it too. It's the Trump method.
I will do it myself. I'm not going to trust China. I will do it myself. I am Shirin myself.
Ew, no! I want to confirm this government, not Donald Trump.
I shall not mock ScoMo.
I like ScoMo, he's a good man. Sometimes. He's just shut down the schools again. And they're all under.
Is that why he's a good man? Because he shut down the schools for a couple of
It's
weeks?
actually not that
That was, yeah, Gladys Berejiklian.
She's with the Department of Education. And he's with private schools.
How are you going to manage it?
I'll change it myself.
Yeah, okay, so you can take themselves and write it down. That's one grade. Okay?
Change
But
it
you're
myself.
not going to be able to do everything yourself. You just one.
I'll
Okay?
get workers.
Okay. So if you have to teach something new to someone, what's the first thing that you're going to do? Try and convince them. Okay? How are you going to convince them? Okay? So
Are you trying to convince me?
you're going to have an equal discussion. Okay?
Alright, there's a business group downstairs.
Gotta make sure that you guys are roughly around 50-50.
I can't agree with anyone, especially my mom.
I know school
She wants something that I want something. She wants to get something that I want to get something. Like,
Alright. So let's have a look at this, okay? So you have to make a change and get the least amount of resistance possible. Lavinia, what's the first thing that you're going to do? Okay, so talk to opposition. The opposition could be anything, okay? It depends what you're trying to change. But let's just say whatever you're trying to change in this school, it has detractors, it has resistance. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to talk to those people. Okay? Samar, what do you got? What's one of the things that you're going to be doing?
I said that if I was a prefect, I'd talk to my prefect body to get their opinion as well, because it's not just me, it's like the whole team.
Talk to your team. If your team isn't behind you, your resistance is only going to get further and further. Okay? The team needs to support you. You can't do it all yourself most of the time. Okay? You're just going to end up dying on a hill. Okay?
that'll be me.
Well, that's the saying. It's choose which hill to die on. Is this issue really worth doing? Okay? What else?
Can't you like make changes to your decision to make as many people as you want on your side?
Amend your changes. Good, Bunty. Okay? So you're going to amend your changes to basically get as many people on board as possible. Okay? What else? You got another one? One of the girls at the back, I never ever hear you.
We were gonna say talk to your team as well.
Talk to your team as well, yes? What about this? Make sure your plan is clear.
Yeah, come up with a solution.
Yeah, and that's the next one, okay? Clear plan, clear solution.
Make it understandable. Or was that clear?
Because if you go up to people, let's say you're in a meeting, okay, and some of you might have sat in SRC meetings already, and you go, there's a problem here, but you don't offer a solution. What's the inevitable thing that happens?
I will speak up.
Not even ignored, people just talk about the issue, they whinge about it, but then nothing gets done. And it's just this ever-present circle of whinging.
Make an agreement.
Okay? You come with a solution, people aren't just whinging about the problem, now they have to discuss whether your solution is going to work. Okay? Anything else? Okay, they're pretty much the best ones. Okay? So, here's how we can do it. Okay? We can identify the need for the change using business information systems, which we're going to go through in a bit. Okay? Clearly communicate the need for the change to all stakeholders. And like I've said a couple times, girls, you need to be using that terminology when you're talking about the participants in any sort of thing. Okay? It needs to be stakeholders, not people it may affect, stakeholders. Okay? You have to set achievable goals. If your goal is pizza for everyone every day of the week at school, I'm going to look at that and go, obviously bullcrap. Okay? But if your goal is once a day, once a term, everyone gets pizza at school, I'm looking at that going, I could probably do that from some fundraising, make it an event sort of thing. It has to be achievable. Okay? You should be developing strategies to overcome resistance to change. This is exactly what we just did then. Okay? And use management consultants and change models, which is very much what Punky was just suggesting, which is you have a model, but just because you have a model and a plan and you approach people with it doesn't mean it can never change again. You have to be willing to compromise on the issue and get as many people on board as possible. Okay? And you should be talking to other people, experts in that field, to get their opinions. Because you are not the repository of all knowledge in the universe. Okay? You have to be talking to other people. So, here's what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to be looking at the case study of Nokia. Okay? The old indestructible brick of phones. Okay?
Back in the day.
And you're going to be looking at 3 changes that Nokia underwent in 90 years. Okay, yes, 90 years. Because they didn't originally start off nearly like the company that they are now.
I was born 9 years ago, right?
You're born 9 years. You're a very, very good reader for a 9-year-old. Okay? Alright. So girls, you can either look at your phone or you can look on the board. Either way, the PowerPoint's already up. Okay?
I know my friends are 9-year-old.
So read through it. I'll give you a couple minutes to read through it and we're going to go through. So, sorry.
Have to read again?
3 changes that Nokia underwent in the 90 years it's been existing. So what's 3 big changes?
They went from this one.
Just read. It's going to give you the answer.
How can we make the answer? How can we get the answer ourselves? No, I'll read it off the board. I can't read it. I'm a brain of a 9-year-old.
Girls, if you can't read from there, move to the front, because I can see it from here, and my eyes are pretty bad. Or your phone, either one's fine.
But I have to CEO.
God love you, Shireen.
No.
You're on the one on the reading.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's why I said
Go on the PowerPoint.
Oh.
I did that too.
Because after the business right there. What's my future husband, bro? He's going to divorce me. Where is it?
Do you like do the ones inside of the What? Actually? Oh.
So I had a question. For people who don't like do you see yeah.
Hold on a second now. If they're still at school, then effectively they still have to do all assessments that were handed to them. That's as far as I know. Okay, I'm not the expert on this, Mr. Johnson.
Sister, yeah, talking up the CEO.
Johnson's that question, not me. Yes, there was a question over here.
What's the difference?
Deregulated means you're taking away some of the rules and laws regarding it and releasing government control of it.
No.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Alright, thank you. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Ed's a scissor hands here. Who can tell me one of the changes that Nokia underwent?
I read the first one.
Sold their device part to Microsoft.
Okay, so they sold their mobile device business to Microsoft, okay? So one of the changes that they made was the thing that they became famous for, mobile phones, they completely moved away from it, okay? That is now Microsoft's problem.
Like a strategic alliance or joint venture with that German company.
Siemens, okay? So you can also say German company Siemens or Siemens, okay? So they joined up with them and then 100% control of the networking business, okay? So they joined up with that German company because they basically realised, oh, we're not really making money in the mobile phone business anymore. What can we do with the capital that we've already got and move into a different business and still contain a market share of that? Okay, what else?
They shared with Apple or Samsung.
Yep,
They
so
shared providers.
what they had in the 1990s and early 2000s, what they're saying is they lost pretty much all the market to Apple and Samsung.
Oh, so they didn't share.
That's right, Apple and Samsung were just killing them, basically. Okay. What else? Yep.
There's something about new corporate structure.
Somewhere, but I cannot remember where I put it.
It's you know the last one you did.
It's in the line with the networking business. Yeah, just
Yeah, right there.
New corporate structure, okay? So, Nokia basically realised that the previous corporate structure was not working for it, and they completely got rid of it and structured it again. Okay? Do you think they would have went for a more autocratic or participative one? Participative, because it's what most modern businesses go towards. Okay? Because they realise that it gets off the best resources. Okay? Now there's plenty of other changes that have happened there. Okay? Just in that small little extract. But basically what we're saying is Nokia's only been around for 90 years, which is not something that's particularly long.
That's all of them.
Okay? I should well hope so. Okay? If your mum's 90 and you're what your age is now,
No, I was a mistake.
I'm not saying it's disturbing, but it's impressive.
I was
Okay.
a mistake,
So,
no, I didn't know it was a mistake. I kept it as a surprise. Present surprise.
let's keep on going. So, identifying the need for change. Now remember, girls, that we were going through our glossary of important words last lesson. So any of the words that you see in bold are words that are in our glossary that can appear on an examination. Okay, and you need to know the terminology of those words. Okay, so often the primary reason / need for change is to maintain competitive edge over the opposition. Without change, your business will die. Who can give me the simple definition of competitive edge?
Virgin.
That's an example. What is the definition of a competitive edge? Yep. Effectively, we can just replace edge with advantage. One of the sayings that we have is always keep yourself sharp. Okay? Because you never know when something else is going to happen. You always need to be sharp so you can cut through something. If you are basically being a lazy business and just relying on what you've always done, you're going dull. Okay? And eventually you're going to lose your edge and you're not going to be able to cut through anything. You have to keep on sharpening the business so it can keep on competing with the new competitors. Okay? Now, threats may come from external influences and from in the manner of the 4 management processes. For example, now, who can give me what the 4 management processes are? Slightly worrying because we just spent about 7 lessons on these.
Also, I have to know.
No.
It's the behavioral thing.
Management processes, girls. Finance.
Tax,
HR.
tax. It's tax one.
No, it's not tax. Marketing. Human resources. Okay? Now these girls are the 4 marketing processes. Now when you need, managing processes. Okay? Now when change occurs, it means that you are going to need to adjust one of these 4. And you have to be able to explain what you're doing to one of those 4 to adjust for the external or internal influence. Okay? So, let's have a look. Okay? Now, when we try to categorize the problem, we are going to look at it in the terms of the management processes as well. So these are some of the threats that might demand change from looking at the management processes. Okay? If a threat is coming from marketing, you're looking at a new competitor that may be aggressively targeting market share. Customer attitudes may be changing. If you're looking at operations, there may be changes to legislation concerning product safety, production methods, and waste disposal. Equipment has become technologically obsolete and quality has decreased. Can anybody give me an example where there's been a change to safety and a product has to be discontinued or its operations changed? There was a toy about 5 years ago, mainly made in China. Okay? It was a whole series of these little plastic toys and plush toys. Okay? It was just a whole series. There's a whole bunch of them. Not just Lego. No, not Lego. Okay? It was just plush toys. You know?
Squishes?
Yeah.
Oh. Someone said
Those toys all had to be taken back and operations completely changed from the factories in China because they made new laws regarding how much lead could be put into toys.
Why is it?
Lead is very dangerous
Why is it lead?
because there would have been lead from the production process. Okay? So they found out basically kids were getting poisoned from playing with these toys. They changed the laws. That factory had to change its operations.
Shouldn't the factory be like?
I believe they were trying to be sued, but that's the problem with dealing in a foreign company and a Chinese company at that. It's very hard to sue. Okay? Human resource problem or threat might be that employee motivation, productivity and quality may have fallen. Absenteeism and turnover may have increased. And finance is the cost of operating the business may have risen dramatically. Alright, so here's what I want you to do, okay? The businesses that you've done in your assessment, we're going to use in this lesson again, okay? And I want you to look at pick one business that you've chosen and figure out the type of management process problem that it faced and explain how the business responded to it. Now that could be either a positive or a negative. They might have done something very stupid and gone a complete other way.
that would be me as a business.
Okay? So think about the business that you've done. Think about the problems they had. What management process did it relate to? Okay?
COVID-19.
I'll give you a couple of minutes of that one.
Because I'm doing Virgin, right? So that they lost money due to COVID-19. So that's external. I'm still talking about external.
Yeah, but we're not on the external internal here, okay?
Oh no, I don't.
So you want to figure out the problem that they had was a financial, operations, marketing, and human resources. Okay? Now Virgin, what was the problem that you said?
The money.
So which one do you reckon that was? Money?
There is, but I mean.
Was there one dealing with money in those 4 categories? Starts with an F. 5. Yes. Okay. So the problem would have been a financial management process problem. Okay? Because they were already in debt before the coronavirus hit. Okay? Now, oh, that's right, we finished early. Yeah. Alright, girls, have a lovely day, have a lovely long weekend. Celebrate the Queen's birthday as you know how.